from a state. We are recording today so that students who can't join us have access to this presentation. And oh, we have someone from North Dakota. Very cool, very cool. Lots of out-of-state folks. It's really fun. Hope everyone's safe too. I know that there's been a lot of fires in California. I hope everyone is safe, their family and friends. Fortunately, we're not quite out of the clear with this fire season. Hope everyone is safe. So we're just giving people some time to join today. Welcome if you've just joined us. It's 10:03. We're going to give everyone a couple of minutes to join in. I know that some people just need a couple of minutes to transition. And as you're joining, like, please feel free to leave your camera on. You can always keep it off too and put it on at 10:05, whatever you're comfortable with. We want you to be comfortable today. We really like seeing your faces, and it's really good for you to get to know each other. I know that orientation is just a really different experience this year because you're not in person, but we're really hoping that you have a really great workshop today and that you really get a lot out of this workshop today. So we're really happy that you're here. Any coffee drinkers? I know we talked about this before. Any coffee drinkers or more tea drinkers? Maybe in the chat you could say coffee or tea. I didn't start drinking, well, that's not true. I started drinking coffee when I was 12 years old. That's not good. So, okay, Red Bull. Yes, my partner, that's what they drink too. Lots of Red Bull, lots of tea, both. Excellent. I'm trying to actually cut down on my coffee a little bit. So I've been moving to 2 cups. I usually have 4, if you can believe it. But I really started drinking pretty heavily coffee-wise in college. So, ooh, yerba mate. Yes, I've heard. I have actually not tried that. Has anyone ever tried there's a seltzer coffee? It's like very refreshing, like an iced coffee, but it's seltzer. Very, very good. There's a place in Davis called Temple Coffee, and they have one that's really delicious. So, all right. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get started. It is 10:05. We are so happy that you made it here today. We will have students join us as we continue to pass the time. I know that some folks are getting settled. I strongly encourage you to turn on your camera. That way we can see your faces. We can get to know you. Again, if you're not in a space where you feel comfortable turning on your camera, please don't feel like you have to. We want you to be as most comfortable as possible, but it is good to see your faces. So we have a really great schedule plan for you all today. So we're going to take this morning session, and by the way, I hope everyone's having a really great orientation. So we're going to take this morning session. We're going to focus on kind of what it's like to be an undeclared exploratory student. This is your program, right? So you're in this really great special undeclared exploratory program. We're going to talk about the change of major process. We're going to talk about the major exploration process. So I'm super excited. We have some really great advisors here with us today. We have the Internship and Career Center, some career advisors here today that are a huge resource, tremendously wonderful resource on campus. And then we have students who came in just like you, undeclared exploratory, and then took some time to figure out their path. What are their goals? What do they want to do when they graduate? And so we're going to hear from them today, and you're going to get a chance to ask questions today. So speaking of asking questions, I want you all to please utilize the chat function. It's really the best way to ask questions. That way we can make sure that we answer as many questions as we can that come in today. And anytime you have a question, you can go ahead and pop that in the chat, but we will have opportunities to engage with you and to help you with anything that's on your mind. We are going to go ahead and do some introductions. So all of the staff, I'm going to go ahead and start. My name is Tracy Dieslin. I work as an academic advisor in the College of Agricultural and Environmental Science Dean's Office. Right now, that's your college. We were hoping, of course, that you stay within our college, but you know, your change of major might take you down a different path, and that's okay too. I have been on campus, gosh, since 2012. So I started February 2012. So I've been on campus about 8 years, and I love working at UC Davis. So we're going to go ahead now and hear from Hong, one of our other advisors.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining with us this morning. My name is Hong Dao, one of the another academic advisor in the Dean's office, and I've been in the Dean's office for 4 years now. And I did got my undergrad degree at UC Davis in clinical nutrition. So if any of you want some advising or my experience as a clinical nutrition major, feel free to reach out to me.
All right, now we're going to hear from Joe.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Joe Lee, and I'm another one of the academic advisors in the College of Ag Dean's office. It's nice to be here with you all today. A little bit about myself. I also graduated from UC Davis. I have my degree in history. I started at UC Riverside and was a transfer student. One thing that I remembered very much about kind of starting college anyway, was I came from a very small town, like a 2,500 person town with one stoplight, kind of small. And I just remember going to, it was UC Riverside, and just thinking how big and kind of how different it really was. And so that was one thing that I remember most about my first year, was just kind of getting to know and getting to meet a lot more people than I was ever used to in kind of environments that I never really experienced as I was growing up. So that excited me, and I hope that you find some good joy with that too.
Thanks, Joe. Now we're going to hear from Lynn, who's joining us today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lynn Fowler, and I'm a career advisor in the Internship and Career Center. And I'm kind of a generalist. I can help anyone as far as wherever you are in your career journey, but I also specialize in ag and environmental sciences. And when I present later, my colleague Spencer will be here too. But we have many advisors in lots of areas. And gosh, I was a psychology major. I'm an alumni, and I remember, the thing I most remember is driving up to orientation and just being terrified, right? Like that, I'm so old. I've been on campus like over 15 years, and I still remember that, like, you know, kind of shaking as I drove up, like, okay, here I am, and I don't know where anything is. And one of the best things I did my first year is I started working on work study at Outdoor Adventures. And I hadn't been an outdoorsy person, but I wanted to learn. So it didn't have anything. I was a psychology major. It was just an interest of mine. It was a great way to meet people and really have fun on campus. So I hope you all, I mean, a lot of what I'm going to talk about is exploring your interests, and that was one that really stood out to me.
Very cool. Thanks, Lynn. It's really funny how even us all, I'm not an alumni, I went to school on the East Coast, but it's even funny how now, like, we just don't forget that first year. Like, you just cannot forget it. So it's such a wonderful mix of emotions. All right. Well, so those are our staff advisors. I think that Spencer's not here yet, Lynn, but we can go ahead and introduce him later. He's going to be joining us from the Career Center. And then we also have some students, and I think that you're really going to like to get to know these students today. So the first one, and just so you know, they're going to share their major, what they remember most about their first year, and then what year they are at UC Davis. And so we're going to go ahead with Angelica.
Hi, I'm Angelica. I am a junior. I am in junior standing, but I've been attending UC Davis for 3 years now, and my major is landscape architecture. And the thing I remember most about my first year was eating at the DC.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Angelica. Okay, we have Brendan.
Hello, I'm Brendan. I'm a third-year human development major with a focus on pre-health. What I remember most of my first year probably has to be, there's so many fun ones. Probably, I want to say picnic day, which is a big event we have in the spring. Picnic day is awesome. I'm so sad it did not happen last year with COVID, but hopefully all of you can experience it this year where it was around during spring quarter.
Very cool, very cool. All right, and now we have Chantal.
Hi all, my name is Chantal. My major is International Agricultural Development, and I'm a junior. And what I remember most about the dorms, about my first year is the dorms, like just the whole year, the excitement and the fun of being a first year, making new friends, and living in the dorms with other students and your friends, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you so much, Chantal. And Estefania, last but not least.
Hi guys, my name is Stephania. I'm currently a third year studying sustainable environmental design, also double majoring in design with my focus in interior architecture. I would say that what I remember the most about my first year, I can probably sum up is the dorms, meeting new people, the DC, and they had like cookies that they would give at night. I'm not sure if that would happen, but they would give warm cookies, and either I could stay up all the time, like with my friends, like until they closed. And the third thing would be actually there's four things, but the sports that I'm able to join, because you're able to build community through that, whether it's maybe now through online. And the last one would be that biking around campus. I think that's probably like the one thing that can't be, changed right now, especially with you guys being on, some of you guys are on campus. That's the most awesome part that at least you guys can still experience, because I think that's a huge part of what is at UC Davis.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. So those are your hosts, and we're going to go ahead and transition to a really fun activity that Hong is going to take us through.
All right, before we kind of dive into our programming shortly, I know that this morning you will be with us for 2 hours, so we do want to get your energy flowing and also get you out, up and out of your seat. So we're going to do a fun icebreaker game. We're going to do a scavenger hunt. I'll explain this fun activity, and then we'll see, how you all do. So with this, and I'll share screen my computer with the scavenger hunt items. We may be able to do 3 rounds. We'll see with the timing. So with the scavenger hunt, when we start, you can, and for the staff and the panelists, if you want to participate, feel free to participate. So for this activity, we will start with everyone turning the camera off. And then once you find the item that is going to be shared screening, I will also put the items in the chat as well. Once you finish, once you complete the list, collecting the items from the scavenger hunt, then you can definitely turn your camera back on, and then we'll see the first 3 people who completed the round and have them share the items that you found for your scavenger hunt. Any questions with that? And if so, once you finish finding the items, you could turn your camera on, and maybe in the chat you could say done, and then that will help me figure out the top 3 who completed the activity, and for you 3 to kind of share the items that you found for the scavenger hunt. So I will go ahead and share screen my computer, and then meanwhile I will go ahead and put the items also in the chat. All right, so here's the first scavenger hunt, round 1. So find 1 red circular item. 2 is find 1 orange small item. 3, find 2 yellow items that can fit into a microwave. 4, find a green item that you can wear on your head. 5, find a blue item that does not belong to you. 6, a purple item that is not edible. And 7, find a black item that makes you happy. All right, we have one students who have finished already. Okay, hold on.
I was gonna say that is really fast.
I was like, that was
Like
super
lightning
fast.
speed.
And I'm gonna go ahead and stop share just in case. Yes, you need to find each item. So that should be 7 different items. Or 8 with the yellow item has to be 2. So total of should be 8 items. All right, we have Abby who is done. Great job. I'm really excited to see what items you found. Okay, and Elaine also is done. We just need 1 more student. All right, and Eva is also done. Great, great job. Hopefully everyone else was able to complete it or nearly have completed it. I remember we did this for our step orientation. I was having such a difficult time trying to find these items. So kudos to you for those who finished, because I wasn't able to finish or even get half of those items. All right, so let's have Abby. What you say, Tracy?
Then you have to put them all away once you get them.
So with Abby, if you want to share what you found and for each of those 7 listed items.
Okay, so to start off, the red circular item is a washi tape that I have. It's red. 1 orange small item are these gums. I didn't want to take one out, but there's one. 2 yellow items is a ball of yarn and a headband. A green item I can wear on my head is this hat that I made. It's kind of big, but a blue item that doesn't belong to me is my sister's mask. Purple item that is not edible is my purple conditioner that I'm gonna use tonight. And a black item that makes me happy is this BTS RM doll. So yeah.
All right, great, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then we have next Elaine.
Hi, okay, so my red circular item is this tomato that I found. Orange small item is this lacrosse ball that's orange. 2 yellow items that can fit in a microwave, like this lotion and this mug. A blue item that doesn't, a green one that you can wear on your head. It's like this head scarf thing. A blue item that doesn't belong to me is like my sister's blue like dish that she puts stuff in. And purple item that not edible is pencil. And black one is my stuffed animal.
Very cute. Thank you. And the last but not least, Eva. Oh, you're on mute. You will have to unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry, I didn't.
Okay.
Well, I hope you guys can see everything's kind of dark in my room, but I have a red circular bottle cap. And for the orange item, I have this like, I don't know, is it like a ring or something with eyes? And the 2 yellow items, I have a clip and a little lotion bottle. A green item you can wear is a very faded, like dark green hat. A blue item does belong to you. I have like my brother's mouse. A purple item that's not edible. I have like a purple little container thing. And a black item I like is this. These are my shorts. I really like them because they make me happy because I love shorts.
Great.
My pants.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. Very creative. I like the tomato. That was really circular red small tomato. Great. Great job. All right. We will do one more round of scavenger hunts. And hopefully we have new winners to kind of share and also, you know, get to also know a little bit more about you. So let me put this in the chat. And I'll share a screen on the computer. All right, so here's the next 7 items. All right, so we have an item that helps you study, find an item that you consider teeny, find an item that is pink, find an item that is hairy, find an item that helps you cook, find an item that would be cool if it was bigger, and find an item that helps you to be successful. And then once you have collected your 7 items, go ahead and put in chat done, so we would know that you have completed the scavenger hunt activity.
Someone asked, what is teeny? So that would be something, sure, teeny tiny, small, itty bitty.
All right, Eva is done again. Great job. You're really, really fast. We have Taylin, great job. I'm excited to hear and see what you have found. And Victoria, great. All right, I'm gonna stop share screening and then we're gonna have those 3 students share with us a little bit on the items and a little bit more about, you know, what you found. All right, so we can start with Eva again.
Okay, something that helps me study is highlighter. You know, it's important to highlight things and just like keep track of what's important. Something that's tiny is I have these, I don't know if you guys can see past parking, but these are like tiny little clothespins, like to hang stuff and everything. Something that is pink is I have like blush here. Something that is hairy, I have my dog. So pretty hairy enough, very shedding all the time. Something that helps you cook. I use chopsticks to cook because like it's just like easy to like do little stir fries and everything. An item that would be cool if it was big. I have this little Lego dragon looking thing. It would be cool if it was like this big, like real life or something. And something that helps you to be successful. I have virtual textbooks, so this would basically be like my textbook feels like having textbook, I can like read the materials and just make me be successful in my classes.
All right. Thank you so much. Very creative with the dog being hairy. Good item to grab your dog. All right, Taylin.
Okay, an item that helps me study is my water bottle because I am super restless, so it just gives me something to do. Something I consider key is this little crystal I got at this crystal stand. Something that is pink is a pair of scissors. Something that is hairy, I also brought my dog. Something that helps me cook is a whisk. Something that would be cool if it was bigger, my antidepressant bottle. That would be really helpful. And something that helps me be successful is my phone because I have a lot of stuff on here. So.
All right, thank you so much for sharing. And then last but not least, Victoria.
Hello. Okay. The item that helps me study is these headphones. Something teeny tiny is this thumb pin. Pink item, hairy, this thing, a spatula, and then this painting I made. It's only small. I wish it was bigger. And this calculator for the last one.
Great job. Awesome, very creative. And thank you for everyone that participated. Hopefully you had a fun time trying to grab and find these activity. Great job. So now we're gonna dive into another activity that Joe would lead us. So he will take it away.
All right, so as we kind of begin our time here at UC Davis, I think as we found in talking to students and hearing from others' experiences that there's a lot of different thoughts and perspectives as we think about what being undeclared exploratory means for us. And so we're gonna kind of take a look at that a little bit more and take some time to consider that. So we're gonna be using Kahoot, a program that many of us may have used in terms of kind of games or whatnot, but Hong's gonna do a share screen here. And so we would like for you to log into Kahoot using that game pin. And what you're gonna do is it's gonna build a word cloud here. And so we want you to start sharing a word, and you can enter multiple times, a word that comes to mind when you think about undeclared or exploratory. It could be nervous, could be exciting, could be unsure, it could be a lot of different things. So as we start getting in, and we'll start here in a moment as more folks have a chance to log in, we're going to take a look at that and talk through that a little bit more. Thanks, Hong, for dropping that into chat. So the game pin there is 406-2877. Feel free to keep logging in.
There we go.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started, but you all can keep logging in if you're not logged in yet. As you noticed, Hong put the game pin in there. So again, it's a word cloud. And what comes to mind when you hear the words undeclared, undecided, or exploratories? And you can start typing your answer. All right, keep plugging those answers in. All right. So as you can see here, there's a few different kind of themes or ideas. I think some may have or kind of help or lead you to think of maybe something more negative. Some may sound a little bit more positive. But I think that in our experience working with students, and I hope that as you hear some of the experiences from the students in the panel, that regardless of where you're at, it is very much a lot of shared experience and a shared perspective. And so what we encourage students to think about is when we look at this, that it's okay to be exploratory. It's okay to be unsure. It's okay to be curious. It's okay to explore. You're not at age 17, 18 supposed to have everything figured out, you know, and I think that's a really important lesson as you move forward, that regardless of where you're at, it's okay to not have all the answers and to not be decided. And then for some of you, you might already know, hey, I want to do this exact major. I don't know how I ended up undeclared in the first place. I know exactly what I want to do, and that's great too. So we encourage that type of exploration. And so I did want to just give a moment for some of you all. What are some thoughts that you have as you look at this and as you typed in some answers? Are there any folks out there who would like to share some of their thoughts? Yes, you can also share in chat as well.
I answered options because I think it's great that we have a lot of freedom to kind of choose what we want to do and see where our interests lie before we choose what we want to major in.
So May, do you have an idea of like kind of direction or kind of areas of subjects, or are you just really kind of open to a lot of different options?
Yeah, I'm open to a lot of different options, even outside of our college.
Nice.
Like econ and Spanish, but mainly I think for a major, I'm looking at community and regional development, but I'm super excited to kind of see all sorts of other classes as well, like horticulture and the policy and management major as well.
Nice. Awesome. Anybody else have some perspective or thoughts that they'd like to share with the group? Yeah, so Peter shared in the chat there, just kind of having lots of interests and kind of choosing between some options. And yeah, I think that that's also the case too, you know, and I think we heard that a little bit from May as well. You might have a wide range of interests and you might decide, hey, I want to take a few different classes. I want to try a few different things. And that's a really great perspective to take, even for those of you who might have a direction or two that you're really focusing in on. Don't be afraid to take something outside the box a little bit and try something new as well.
For me, like I also have a lot of interests, but in particular, I'm interested in environmental science. But Davis offers a ton of different environmental science majors, so
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure which one I wanted to choose. And so I'm hoping that I can learn more about each major and see which one most appeals to me.
Yeah, thanks, Elena. I think that brings up a really good point, is that some of your interests may kind of be in different clusters where there could be a lot of different major options. And definitely within the environmental sciences, you know, you have some of your traditional environmental science and management, environmental policy analysis and planning, environmental horticulture and urban forestry, things that you might immediately look at. But then there's a lot of other majors that look at environmental processes and things that you might want to also consider, like hydrology, atmospheric science, even plant sciences, global disease biology. And so there's a lot of other kind of peripheral things that might pique your interest as well. So very good. Anybody else want to share some thoughts? Well, I hope that at the very least you can start to see that some of your own thoughts may certainly be shared very much by other students. I can assure you that based on my advising experience with students, that very much is the case. We've pretty much heard it all. And so we encourage this kind of exploration. We want you to explore different areas. We want you to try new things. We want you to do you know, take a class that might be outside of the norm for you, because those are oftentimes the places where you can start to potentially open up new doors that you didn't even know existed. And I'm sure Lynn from the ICC, the Internship and Career Center, will touch on this in a little bit here, but your major does not have to equal a career. And I think that's a very important thing for all students, not just undeclared exploratory, but just because you major in one specific thing doesn't mean that you have to do careers in certain specific things. We want to encourage all students to look at their education beyond just the degree and the academic piece. Internships, research, job experiences, all these other applied learning opportunities give you really practical skills that can help open up completely new doors for you. Of course, there are going to be those cases where you do see students find a specific major that does open up into certain career pathways. And that's great if you do, but don't feel like you have to fit these kind of molds or these patterns. And another thing that we do hear from our undeclared exploratory students is, you know, maybe they feel a little bit behind because they have classmates, or you have friends that like, oh, I'm majoring in this because I'm going to go do that, and you know, and go down the list. But just because you're undeclared doesn't mean you're behind in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, when we look at graduation rates within our college, we see that students who start undeclared exploratory are on the same graduation rate average as anybody else. And so even if you're looking at it from a time to degree standpoint, it doesn't change really much of anything that any other student would be looking at. So, you know, please don't feel like you're behind at all. So any questions about the word cloud activity, any questions or thoughts that you want to share about kind of what it means to be undeclared exploratory?
Yeah, what you were just talking about, like with the time, I'm a little worried about that because, like I hear other people talking about, like especially STEM majors, saying like I'm on this specific track and I need to take like some people have already planned out all of their classes for like all 4 years, you know, and so just being in exploratory, I'm a little nervous just because what if I spend too much time like just exploring and not picking a specific pathway, especially if what I end up choosing is something that there's a lot of prerequisites for the major. So
yeah, and those are great questions and things to consider. I mean, certainly there are majors that have very prescribed and defined pathways. In particular, ones that come to mind, like the College of Engineering, pretty much every engineering major is very defined. It's very much structured. You take these classes and you just kind of move forward. But you know, another thing that we encourage you all to think about is that as your advisors in the dean's office, that's what we're here to help navigate. So even if you're considering multiple majors, maybe we want to help you set up a schedule that regardless of which path you go down, you're still taking the prerequisites. So for example, for first year students, it generally starts with chemistry. And so we help students, okay, even if you're considering plant sciences and community and regional development, for example, we probably want you to start with chemistry because if you end up going down the plant science route, you want to make sure that you're moving forward on those sequences. But if you're not considering any science-based majors that require chemistry, biological sciences, those kind of things, we can really work with you on kind of how to approach that. But those are great questions, and that's exactly what we're here for in the dean's office.
And if I could add, Joe, too, like I know, like you were saying, Elena, like just a feeling of like maybe being behind, and in terms of like anything that you do take will count towards university requirements. They'll count towards your units to graduate. They're not going to waste. And you also get to kind of, you know, meet some new people and kind of get adjusted to the quarter system as well.
Can I touch on that too very quickly?
Go for it, Brendan.
Yeah, so another thing, because I did not get my major until I think I declared my major back in January. And so I was doing all, and I had about 5 prereqs I needed to do for my major before I could declare it. And even during that time, I was taking some classes that my major required me to have, even though I wasn't declared yet. So even if you're not declared, there are some classes you can still take for your major. So you won't be that behind. There's only a select few of classes, like specifically for my human development major. There are some classes called human development classes, which I need to be in the major to take. But there's a lot of classes each major have which you don't need to be in the major, like declare to actually take them.
So we can certainly continue this conversation, and I can promise you it'll come up in various themes when we get to our student panel. But now I'd like to make sure that we take some time and give it over to Lynn. So Lynn Fowler is one of our career advisors in the Internship and Career Center. Lynn works specifically with students in the College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences. I'm sure she'll give a lot more background, but please feel free to take it away, Lynn.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's so great to see you all. I had briefly introduced myself, and I have a colleague joining me because we're the two folks who specialize in ag and environmental sciences. Although, I mean, really talking to the exploratory group, we're much broader than that. We're also kind of generalists, and I'm going to let Spencer introduce himself because he can talk about his breadth of experience. So Spencer, I'll have you introduce yourself, and then we're going to jump into some specifics of resources for y'all.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name's Spencer Atkinson. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm one of the senior career advisors at the ICC. Along with Lynn, I primarily focus on ag and environmental science. However, as Lynn said, all of us are generalists and are able to serve any student that walks in the door, really. And in fact, Lynn and I actually share a lot in common in terms of our background. We were both K-12 teachers for a time. I was a creative writing major in college. So clearly my poetry writing career has not necessarily taken off quite yet. So I'm here with you all, but yeah, so we really remind folks as they come in, like, bringing all these different interests and skills and passions and values to the table is a big part about what the career development process is. So really, I know that's what Lynn is going to be talking about with you all today, but I just wanted to take a minute to say hello. And I'm actually, speaking of, I'm going to be heading out in a minute to go help with a presentation to the English department. So, we all wear lots of hats,
Thanks so much, Spencer, for joining us. We love that you can put a face to a name because we're going to talk about resources and how you can connect with us later. So I love that Joe mentioned that major does not equal career, right? So we're here to help connect for you career opportunities. So I'm going to share my screen real quick and take you through how we can help support you, Spencer and I and all the other advisors at the Internship and Career Center, and resources that are available to you. Well, I'm going to present for less than 10 minutes, and then we're going to open it up to questions, either in the chat or you can pose those as well. So let me share my screen. Hopefully everyone can see that. All right. So what are your resources? Here's the Internship and Career Center back in the good old days. It's still, you can ride by it, right? We have so many resources, and Spencer might pop a few in the chat for you all. Our services are all remote right now. You can meet with a peer advisor any day, Monday through Friday, 11 to 3. And we have virtual services. You just go in and you can meet with folks. You can also meet with any advisor like Spencer and I, or advisors in lots of areas. Because like we said, major doesn't equal career. You can meet with a career advisor and see on our website our backgrounds and who you'd like to meet with. And we can go in depth with you for half an hour on any questions you have. And you don't have to know exactly what your question is. You can say, I'm exploratory and I'm looking at what my options are. And that's just fine. We also have a lot of workshops, career fairs, ways to start connecting you with employers so you can start seeing what the opportunities are, okay? So please go on our website, icc.ucdavis.edu, and start checking out all our resources and events that we have. You're also going to want to go into Handshake and make sure your profile's up to date so you can make appointments with us and see what the job postings are out there, right? So that's really important. And what I want to normalize what a lot of you were talking about earlier is that it can feel a little like you're behind, but you're not. Almost no one really knows what they want to do because there's so many more opportunities than you could have ever known before you got here. But folks have an expectation that career development's going to be like academics and kind of linear, right? That you're going to just go, okay, I know what I want to do and I'm going to follow that path. But really, career exploration looks like this. If it feels like that, it probably means you're doing it right, because most people don't know. And you might take a step forward, like I did an internship, and I found out I didn't like doing that thing. And that can feel a little bit like a step backward, but it saved me from doing a master's that I wouldn't have enjoyed doing. So really in the end, you're always moving forward. The trajectory just isn't linear. And so this is a great place to be curious and to be thinking about just what are you interested in and reflecting on that. So the process in career development is 3 steps, and every one of you can do this and do each of these steps and learn it. And the first one is just learning more about yourself, and that's what the first year or 2 is mainly about. So figuring out what your skills or interests or values are, and Joe talked a lot about just getting curious, exploring, joining clubs, taking a class that you are interested in. Because in the end, it's going to give you a lot of information about yourself. We have a ton of resources on our website. I'm going to take you to that in a second. We have a career website, and Tracy is going to make this PowerPoint available to you, which is why I put a ton of resources in here, so that if you're like, okay, I want to reflect more on myself, that you can look at values, you can look at interests, and you can take some of these interest profilers, like you can see the second one on here, the ONET interest profiler. You can take it, and then you can go, it will take you into another website that will show you the careers associated, for example, with your interests. So these can be really fun. We can help you out too if you want to meet with an advisor and kind of go through. But what I want you to be asking yourself right now is where you are. You know, are you hoping to do a little more reflection for yourself? Is that where you're kind of called to work? So then you could do these kinds of assessments. Your next step is finding out more about the world of work. And a lot of times your first step is research, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Like I said, there's way more out there than you could have ever known. I know I came from a small town like Joe, and I kind of saw teachers as the only really professional people I knew. So I became a teacher, right? And I didn't realize there were all these other careers that I'm in now until I got to college. Yeah, Spencer's snapping because, you know, a lot of us have that experience. We've had limited exposure until we come to like this amazing research institution and realize all the opportunities. You can also, so research is usually your first step. And then as you think about your next 4 years, you want to start thinking about informational interviews. Who can you talk to that does positions you might be interested in? Eventually job shadowing, volunteering, or interning. So you can, what we call do bias to action, try things so you can reflect on it and see what you like or don't like. So there's a ton of research opportunities. I'm going to show you one because this will take you to our website. So hopefully this works. Spencer, tell me, are we on our website? Is it working out okay? Can you see our website? No?
No, I think you need to reshare your screen.
Okay, so how do I stop share?
Yeah, there should be a new share button.
New share?
Yeah.
Let's see if that works.
Yay, good job.
Yay, okay. So this is why it's always great to have a team member with you that'll be honest with you about what's happening. So here's our website, Internship and Career Center. And there's this really, people don't see this sometimes, this career research tab. And there is so much invaluable information in here. So I really wanted to show you that today, because you can come down here and there's all this kinds of, what can I do with my degree is a great place to start. And then down further, there's like ONET where you can go in and research actual job titles, but you probably want to get more information first. So you can go into, do you see the data pages? You can see any majors, right? So, and you can click on as many as you want. So I'll go into animal science because that's one of our ag majors, ag and environmental science. You'll see all kinds of a national website up here that gives you a broad overview of what people do with that major. And then you can even see specifically at UC Davis when people have graduated, what kinds of jobs they've gone into and where they work. Pretty amazing, right? So, and then I'm going to go out from here. Let's see if this works for me. All right, so I'm going to reshare my other screen now. All right, so we're back to those resources, right? There's a lot in there to research careers. And finally, you want to decide on some action that you're going to take, okay? So you're going to want to decide, You know, are you going to start reflecting on values and skills more? Is it time to do a little research? Because you keep cycling through. Is it time to try something? And we have a 4-year plan on our website as well that kind of gives you some ideas of what you could do each year to be working on your career plan. And I'm going to actually take you down next to some of those options. And I really want you to think about just some next step we're going to take. You don't have to have your whole career plan. It's really just step by step, planning the next step and then reflecting on that step. So, and remember, you can always meet with your advisors at the dean's office. You can meet with a major advisor to find out more about it. You can meet with Spencer and I or any other advisors. Utilize your resources because that's what we're here for. So let's think about this. We also even have a class that takes you through kind of career development. And you can do that any of your 4 years if you're interested. So what are your next steps? Think about that now. I'm going to ask, we're going to share out in just a little bit, but what might your next steps be? So, oops, it could be that you want to access Handshake, right? Maybe you want to go in there and be able to start seeing what's available to you. It could be that you want to take assessments to learn a little bit more about yourself. It might be that you want to research majors a little bit more, or careers associated with those majors. Maybe you want to talk to some folks and do some informational interviews and find out what they do, or job shadow someone or intern, or go to some more events like career fairs so you can meet employers, or always to meet with an advisor. So I want to thank you so much and remind you that you can drop in anytime to meet with a peer advisor or set up an appointment with any of our career advisors. So with that, let's take some questions that you might have. I'm going to look over here in the chat. Oh, how did you get to the page again? So you're going to go to icc.ucdavis.edu, and then right at the very top of the ICC website is a tab called Career Research. And that is the gold mine of information for y'all to kind of, like I said, the pages of career pages about what people tend to do with those majors, and also what specifically UC Davis students have done as well. All right, so what kinds of questions do you all have? You can either put them in the chat, or you're welcome to come online and ask them as well, whatever works for you. What are you wondering about? And you all can see that Spencer put a lot of links in there, right, for you to check out. And the great thing is you are learning research skills, and you know some already. You're going to learn those at Davis, and you're just going to apply those to your own career, right? So that you're, and what I really want to encourage you to do is not forget about this and put it to the side. Sometimes students kind of do that and think, okay, I'm going to think about career later. But it's an iterative process where you keep going and trying something, and then reflecting on it and finding out a lot of information about yourself. So don't, you know, if you're not sure where to start, come in and do a resume and cover letter with us and just get your materials ready. So I say that luck favors the prepared. So you have your materials ready. If you find an opportunity that you're like, oh, I'd really like to do that now and try that, you're ready to go. So don't wait. It breaks my heart when students aren't quite sure what they want, so they keep waiting and putting off doing those things, and then, you know, getting to a point where they're like, oh no, now I feel behind, right? And you're never behind. You just start wherever you are. But getting all your materials ready and working on that process, just taking it step by step, you'll be in a really great place, whatever you want to do. Tracy says the informational interview is her favorite. Do you want to say something about that, Tracy?
Yeah, I talk to my students all the time about this. So Lynn touched upon it a little bit. And so basically it's where, you know, you're thinking about what you see yourself potentially doing when you graduate, and then you contact the individual that is doing that thing. And then basically, you know, you ask them a series of questions of, how did you get to this position? What is some advice you have for me? Like, what would, if you could go back and pick like the perfect major and minor, or double major, or just major, like which route would you go? And so the ICC can help you kind of set you up with the skills to be able to conduct an informational interview. So to kind of like, how do you find people that are doing these things? Especially where everything's online, how do you set up like a Zoom appointment with someone? I've done them before and been very prepared with questions, and then actually been offered an interview. Like, oh, you know, hey, you should come in, and you know, we have this opening. And sometimes it's just kind of a way to network, and it also is a way for you to kind of develop a sense of the pathway someone took in a particular position. And then it just kind of builds your repertoire of, oh, this is interesting, I never thought about that. So I know that the career resource manual is a really good tool that Lynn has on her website. And so that's something that has like, there's a printout, I don't know if you still use that has like all the guidelines of how to do the informational interview.
Absolutely. So it's on the front page of our website, and it takes you through resumes, cover letters, informational interviews, every type of networking. It's a really great point, Tracy, that for example, with LinkedIn, we have workshops that will teach you how to do LinkedIn, and you really want to have a LinkedIn account at this point. And some people, it's a job search and networking option, but you can also look up alumni that have different majors and see what they've done as careers. It's an excellent career exploration tool as well. And sometimes people don't realize that. LinkedIn can do a lot of things for you. So those are the kinds of things we offer at the ICC. We can teach you how to set up your LinkedIn account, how to apply for whatever next step is best for you, right? We want to help you be the best applicant for whatever you want to try or do. Anyone else? Questions? I know I'm about out of time, so I want to make sure to stay to my time because you have an excellent student panel coming up next, I know. Anything else? I really hope you connect with us, and connecting with us at least once a year is ideal with an advisor in the ICC, so we can help you with each year and each step. All right.
Well, I actually, sorry.
Yeah.
I wanted to jump in real quick and ask a question. I've heard about Handshake a lot, and I know it's for, you know, trying to find a job, but I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about that. And I feel like I saw maybe you, maybe we can arrange for a meeting through through Handshake, and just if you could go over that really quickly.
Absolutely. So Handshake, you already have an account as a UC Davis student. And yeah, pretty much everything you do with the ICC is through Handshake. So you would set up an appointment. So you already have an account, but you can fill out your profile more completely. It looks a lot like LinkedIn. And yeah, it will allow you to sign up for events. It will allow you to set up appointments, and it is our job search like posting for UC Davis. So it has student internships. If you want a student paid position, for example, you can look up those along with, you know, all the way up to career positions. So it's got every type of position in there. So for example, if you want a student paid position, you can search by STDT, student, and it will pull up all the student paid positions for you. Or you can also look up internship. It's got a ton of features, right, that you can look up to be able to search. And the beauty of Handshake in looking for positions in there is they're posting specifically for UC Davis students, right? Compared to if you're looking at a job board like LinkedIn, it's much broader. So it's really focused for you all. You have all of those services at the ICC for your whole life. So you'll have Handshake as an alumni for forever. The only thing limited is meeting with advisors up to a year after graduation. So, but you can keep meeting with us even then for up to a year. And then it kind of becomes alumni affairs. But yeah, you have, so definitely get in there and start utilizing those, and you have those as a student for forever. I'm so glad you asked that. Thanks, May.
No, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks again and welcome. It's so great to see you all. I'm so happy that you chose UC Davis.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lynn and Spencer. It was great to hear from you both, and we're excited to have such great connections with the ICC, and definitely, as Lynn mentioned, we encourage you all to make great use of the many different resources available through the Internship and Career Center. So thank you again. So now we will be shifting over to the kind of main portion or larger portion, if you will, of our time together today. And this is where we are going to start our panel. And so just real quick, if we could have the student panelists one more time, just kind of say hello and their name and major again, just so that we can get a refresh of who is in the Zoom room.
Hi, I'm Angelica. I'm part of the student panel. My major is landscape architecture and I'm a third year.
Thanks, Angelica.
Hi, my name is Stephania. I am a third studying sustainable environmental design and double majoring in design and focusing on interior architecture. And I'm also part of the student panel.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Hi, my name is Chantal, and I'm a third year majoring in international agriculture development.
Thank you, Chantal.
I'm Brendan. I'm a third year human development major with a focus on pre-health.
Great, and thank you, Brendan. So we have a few kind of pre-written questions, and we'll get started with a couple of those. But please use the chat feature and enter in any questions that you might have. We want this to be as interactive and informative for all of you as possible. So just to kind of get started in terms of kind of getting to hear a little bit, for each of our student panels, tell us a little bit about how you heard about your intended major, and how did you come to a decision on deciding that particular major or those particular majors, because we do have a double major. So we'll start with Angelica.
Hi again. I first heard about my major through a first year seminar. It was funny because the first year seminar didn't directly have to do with my major, but the instructor for that seminar was a landscape architecture / sustainable environmental design professor, and I believe she was a landscape architect herself. And occasionally throughout the quarter, this was during my freshman year, fall quarter, by the way, and she would talk about the field occasionally. And so I did my research, and I found that most of my interests I found had to do with that major. And this is why I recommend taking first year seminars, because you never know what you're gonna find.
I'll just kind of go in order of my screen. So Brendan, you're the next one that I see here.
Okay, so I learned about my major my fall quarter freshman year because I attended one of the undeclared student panel like get together things where we took a quiz about on like potential majors, and we got a long list. And then actually I learned more about my specific major from Joe. I met with Joe at one point, and Joe said you should look into the human development major because I was interested in doing nursing. So he said, and so Joe said, Brennan, look at this. And so then I looked into it, and then I just decided this was going to be the best major to do to, one, get me to nursing school, and two, had lots of interests that I had, like psychology and human development and biology. So basically, I dedicate all this to Joe. Is the reason I'm here is because of Joe.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
How much did you pay him to say that, Joe?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'll pay you later. Chantal, can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, so for me, it was also thanks to an experience with the dean's office. So when I started out, I was kind of lost. So I made a lot of appointments with the dean's office, and I just told them my situation, the options that I was considering, and my interests, which at the time were French and environmental science. And so one of the advisor suggested me this major called International Agricultural Development, IAD for short. And it was like a perfect mix of everything I was interested in. There was social sciences, there was also plant sciences and environmental sciences. And then that's how I chose this major.
All right, and then Stephania, I think for you in particular as a double major, it'd be interesting to hear a little bit about how you kind of landed on choosing two majors as opposed to just one, or kind of how you ended up in those interests.
Yeah, of course. So I actually started exploratory and then I chose landscape architecture and then I chose sustainable environmental design and then I ended up choosing design and focusing on interior architecture. So it was an interesting journey because before even UC Davis, my initial goal was to go to Cal Poly for architecture. But from noticing that because my interests seemed like it started too late for my classes to show that I have experience already in hands-on architecture, I didn't get in. But luckily, UC Davis had, majors that I was like, oh, that seems interesting, but I'm still going to exploratory, so I still have my options opened. And definitely the same thing that that Brendan mentioned about the major card sort. So that really was also the way that really kind of opened the door into what I really wanted to focus on. Because then one of the top ones was like, oh, landscape architecture. And it wasn't until winter quarter that I actually took a class of history and environmental design, and I really liked it. And then I was like, okay, let me then decide spring quarter, because then I'm gonna take a design class to see which one I want to do. And then from there, I was like, okay, I actually really like both, but I need to really focus on one alone, so I'm not like splitting. What's it called? I don't want to like split my time between two majors. I think my mind was just focused on like being involved in one major alone and then kind of seeing where it takes me. And then sustainable environmental design is kind of a form of landscape architecture, but from what I've noticed, it's more broad and it's like not as technical. And I like the idea of creating new ideas, as in not following a certain structure as like landscape architecture. So it was interesting that from towards like my sophomore year, I started realizing that I actually really like design and I don't want to be so involved in landscape architecture. So I was able to then combine the two. And then from then on, I think it was just recently last spring quarter that I actually fully double majored in both.
Nice. So yeah, I hope that, a couple of things that I heard from all the panelists was it was kind of a combination of a few different things. It wasn't necessarily just one specific thing, but even though a conversation with an individual may have sparked something, it required a couple other things to kind of look through. And I think that's a really key step as you move forward. So the next question that we have for our panelists is, obviously from the Dean's office, we really enjoy working with undeclared exploratory students. But if you think back to when you applied to UC Davis, what made you choose undeclared exploratory in the first place? Was it intentional? We've heard of some students, it's kind of the accident, if you will. It just kind of is the first undeclared major that pops up alphabetically because we're the College of Ag. But what was it that kind of led you into choosing undeclared exploratory? So for this one, we'll go ahead and start with Brendan.
So mine's pretty typical. I chose undeclared because I had no idea whatsoever when I was applying to college what I wanted to do. I was toying with criminal justice. I was toying with healthcare. I was all over the place. I had no idea what I was doing. So I was like, know what? I'm just gonna be undeclared and I'll just see how it goes.
And Chantel.
Yeah, so for me, I really didn't know what I wanted to do either at first. It was very hard for me to decide, just because there's so many options to choose from. I think we have almost 200 majors, and I'm still like a very curious person by nature, so I kind of like a little bit of everything. And yes, and also I didn't really get to taste the waters in high school, so I took this opportunity in college with like the variety of courses we have to try out a bit of everything and then truly find what I really enjoy.
Great. Stephanie?
Yeah, same thing. I feel like I started a little late. It wasn't until my senior year that I was like, because I was following the path that my parents wanted me to follow, and they wanted me to be a doctor. So I was studying a lot about like, oh, like science and all that stuff, chemistry, and I was so bored. Like it was just not my thing. And eventually, I kind of just took a class, a construction class, and then it was a beginner one, then to an intermediate one, and then I just really liked because I learned electrical, painting, a lot of woodworking, and it really grabbed my attention of being able to be hands-on compared to sitting in a chair in class. So that was just my senior year, and I was like, that's why I had applied to Cal Poly. But noticing when I went to UC Davis, I realized that it wasn't just about architecture. I wanted to learn more about what is it to also be sustainable, and especially in our environment today. And I think I like that combination of two. So, and it's great that we already mentioned that like major does not dictate where your path goes. You can decide what that is for you. So that's why I was noticing that like I want to involve sustainable design, but also I want to focus that in architecture. So putting those two together really helped a lot from just looking at my interests and then seeing how when we did that link that we already put in the chat about that card and then it popping up as a major, it took a lot of work to then realize I was like, you know what, I'll stick to exploratory, and that's why I chose it, because I knew it was going to be a long journey of talking to advisors, in which I'll go more about. But it was a process, but it was a process that was worth it because it landed me finally, two majors that I actually feel really happy to be in.
Nice. And Angelica, any thoughts to share?
Oh yeah, I had very similar experiences when I was little. I've had changing interests, like I jumped from one thing to another, but then when I got to high school, those interests like compiled with each other, and they were so contradictory, and I wouldn't know if I even could double major, or I just had so many questions. I was thinking about pre-health as well because I like helping people, and film. I also like art and environmental science. So I was like, oh, I don't know. And then when I was doing college apps and applying to Davis, I saw the exploratory / undeclared option, and I thought it was the right option for me at the moment.
Awesome. Well, I hope that for our incoming students, you can get a sense of not only kind of what helped our continuing students figure out how to choose a major or what went into that decision making, but also maybe hear some of their thoughts and shared experience with yourself of why they chose or selected undeclared in the first place. So, there's definite pathways and there's a lot of different options for a lot of different folks out there. So we do have some more questions, but please, feel free to use the chat function to share or write out any questions that you have for our panelists. The next question that I have for you all, for our student panels, is a little bit less about majors, but a little bit more about student life. And as we are getting used to and getting ready to start our time here at Davis, one of the great resources that's available to students, of course, are office hours. And so for our panelists, what are office hours and what are they like? What has that experience been for you? And so we'll start with Chantal and kind of work our way down.
Yeah, so for me, I actually encountered two types of office hours. So for big classes, it would get really crowded, especially if it's the professor's office hour, and especially before midterms and finals. For example, my macroeconomics class, there wasn't even space to stand inside the room, so some had to stand outside. So an advice is for big classes, make sure that you go in advance, like early. And then for small classes, it would usually be just me and the instructor or the TA. And I would really like that too, because you would get to have more of a personal connection with your instructor and you get a lot out of it actually. So yeah.
Stefania, any thoughts about office hours?
Yeah, I mean, they were definitely useful. How do I explain this? Office hours were a really great experience to not just ask questions when you need help, but also create a relationship with your professor. Because I think what a lot of us don't realize as freshmen, that we actually might need their help later on when we need an internship or a recommendation. And especially, you can't always refer back to high school and your old experiences there. You're going to have to, then refer back to people who are actually in your subject or field. So I think it's a great way and a great resource that we should start using, even through Zoom. Like I had to do that first time ever spring quarter, going into office hours to then ask for a recommendation towards the end. And it felt not I'm gonna be honest, it felt out of my comfort zone to, not being face to face, since that's the most polite way to do it, not through an email or some sort. That's just how I've always seen it. But it was not as scary as people think it is, because definitely if you built that relationship over time and always email the teacher and always meeting communications or going their office hours, asking for that recommendation won't feel as awkward, and instead they'll actually be glad to help you. If anything, they know the process in which you're going through, whatever it is, maybe the same field that you're then pursuing. They understand the struggle and that they would be happy to help you. So I would definitely take advantage of it and be okay with going out of your comfort zone, even though everything is online.
Yeah, thank you. Angelica, any thoughts to share about office hours?
Oh yeah, I think both of them said it all pretty much, but I'd like to add personally, I like going to office hours before a midterm because the professor sometimes could be there and could help answer your questions. And one time I went to office hours with a friend and he asked the instructor for a letter of rec. So I do agree with building that relationship with your professors or TAs.
And Brendan, anything else to add?
Yeah, I think everyone else pretty much covered the big thing about it. For me personally, my freshman year, I will confess, I almost never went to office hours because I was like, I feel like I can be fine. But then when I started going to office hours, especially for my math and my science classes, even if you feel like you know the material, going to them, just you don't have to ask questions. You can just sit there and listen to other people's questions about stuff, and the professor explains it. You might actually learn something or understand something better. Like back in winter quarter when I was taking MCB 10, I would just go to my professor's office hours probably every other week. I didn't have any specific questions, but I would just listen, and I learned something that I did not know. And the next day we had a midterm, and that exact thing was on the midterm, which I would have not known that if I didn't go to office hours. So go to office hours.
Yeah, so as you heard from our panelists, there are your instructors as well as your TAs have office hours. And so a few different opportunities throughout the week for each class to get a little bit more one-on-one or group help with class material. Also, networking is a very valuable opportunity through that. So office hours are a great thing available for our students, and we highly encourage it. So as we kind of look at some other questions here, in terms of selecting and or changing majors, how long did it take before you found your major? And was there anything else that you wish you knew? So we'll go ahead and start with Stephania. How long did it take you to kind of select and change your majors? And was there anything you wish you knew beforehand?
No, yeah, definitely. I would say that it did take me a while. Like it was so when I first declared my major, like landscape architecture, I declared that the end of freshman year, and then my sophomore year, I made that switch to landscape architecture midway through winter quarter. And then just recently, spring quarter is when I double majored. But what I didn't know, I think there was like saying that there's a certain time in which you're supposed to switch majors. And, it takes a while because you also have to make sure that you're, what's it called? I forgot what it's called, but on OASIS, when you start making your schedule, like your 4-year plan about all the classes you're taking, it's a lot of back and forth. That's the one thing I didn't know about. With major advisors, you can't just assume that because there are different colleges, but they all have different requirements. So I had to figure out how to make both majors work into one and then make that schedule. And it wasn't just all on me. They definitely gave me papers of like what the classes I need to take, but it was definitely on my part of like when I wanted to take those classes. And there was a lot of free open space in which classes I wanted to take. So it was definitely a process in which I enjoyed because I started seeing classes that I really liked, and I was like, oh, awesome. Like I can just take this class. And then especially it's like something interesting to me. There's also that part where it's like, I want to be told what to do, so I don't have to like be reliant on like, oh no, what if it's not the right class and stuff like that. So it's definitely what I've noticed that like how long it took me was based off communication with my major advisors, and especially within the 2 different colleges. And it was like, I definitely had to go like in person, asking them questions. And then especially when I made that switch from landscape architecture and sustainable design, I was asking like, oh, well, how does it look like after I graduate? Because I want to make sure that I'm making the right switch. My major advisor, you can even ask them like, hey, can I talk to somebody who's already graduated and already has a career in that? And then you can also figure that out and see if that actually sounds good for you. And sometimes, you might take a class and people might say like, oh, I wasted my time taking a class that, it was really boring at times. Like maybe it's a class that you're like, I need to see it for myself to actually take it. And that has happened to me, but it's good to know what you don't want, because that's probably one of the most important things of all, is knowing what you don't like, because at least you've already, put yourself in that situation and knowing that it's not what's best for you. Because a lot of us know what we're really good at and we really like, but it takes a lot of exploring in college to really know what you like. And that's through taking different classes, talking to major advisors, and ultimately making the time for you to know what are your interests and what do you really like, because that's, a lot of that all leads up to what you want to have as your career.
Awesome, thank you. Angelica, any thoughts on how long it took you to change your major and anything else you wish you knew before?
Yeah, I pretty much had a similar time frame, but freshman year, it took me till about the end of winter quarter to finally select landscape architecture. And the process of going through that was, actually, I'll go back. But during those first 2 quarters, I was really, I was going to the dean's office quite a bit because I found it really helpful. Everyone was really nice, and I talked to them about my possible interests, and they gave me contact information for the major advisors of the majors I'd be possibly interested in. But when I was doing my research about landscape architecture, I went to that major advisor as well. And she talked to me about the major and even let me walk into a studio class to see what it was like what I would be doing for the next couple of years at UC Davis. And I really liked seeing all the artwork and the designs of green spaces. I thought that was really cool. And so finally, when I wanted to do this officially, I went on Oasis, and it took about a week. It's really simple. Oasis kind of looks complicated, but you'll get used to it. Yeah, so it took about a week to get my major approved. And yeah, at that time, I was pre-landscape architecture, and it took me about a year to be finally accepted in the landscape architecture program. There's a whole portfolio process and everything. And honestly, I don't really have anything specific or that I remember of what I wish I knew before changing, but I just feel like I shouldn't have felt like I was being rushed. I wasn't being rushed by anyone. It was just me, and I was just overthinking stuff. But I wish I did take my time to take maybe a couple more classes from other different majors. So, yeah.
Thanks, Angelica. Brendan, any thoughts to add?
Yeah, so it took me actually about 2 quarters to like decide that I wanted to major in human development. Because I felt like 1 quarter at Davis was like yes, I learned about my major, but I was like I want to get more information. And so if that's what I want to do. So it took me about 2 quarters to actually decide that's what I want to do, but I didn't really get the chance to actually declare it until the end of fall quarter of 2019 because of all the prereqs I needed to do for it, which I couldn't just do them all in 1 quarter. So it took me about a year and a quarter to actually like declare my major, and then it took about probably 2 weeks for my major to get approved because I had to declare it at the end of fall quarter, so right for winter break. So I didn't get a response until after I got back to school in the winter. And then I think when I met with my major advisor, it took about like a week to approve it. So yeah, it's pretty simple actually.
All right, thanks, Brendan. Anything else to add, Chantal?
I just wanted to add that for me, it took a lot longer. So I want to share this to make sure that everyone feels comfortable. But yeah, it actually took me the whole 2 years. I stayed undeclared for 2 years, and then so I only declared my major last spring break. Last spring break, or beginning of spring quarter. But I did start taking prerequisites for my major winter quarter of my 2nd year. And even though I started this late, I'm still gonna graduate in 4 years, and all the classes I took before are going to my GEs. So yeah, you have time.
Oh, I'd also like to add, yeah, during the first quarters, I was undeclared. I was also taking some GEs, and I feel like taking GEs would also help gather your interests or deduce them.
Also, some of your GEs may also count towards your major, just saying.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so thank you all, some great perspectives. Elena put a good question into chat. What is the approval process like for declaring a major? And so for this one, I'll actually turn it over to one of our Dean's Office advisors to kind of talk about the actual process. So Tracy, you were first on my screen.
Sure.
Do you want to kind of talk through the change of major process and what that looks like?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. So I feel like it's pretty straightforward. I know that some students have had like a 2-week turnaround or maybe a little bit more time to officially declare. So there's 2 things that we do require. One is you must be in good academic standing, and then you must have at least 1 quarter completed at UC Davis. So if you already know what major pathway you want to pursue, you could definitely change your major end of fall. So once grades post for fall. Trying to think what we recommend. Okay, yes, we do require that you have a graduation plan. If you're, if you're kind of in your like junior, even senior year, and you still haven't by then you will have declared, but if you're trying to change your major by then, we do require a graduation plan. If you're declaring a major and you're an underclassman, so a freshman or sophomore, we typically are looking for a 3-quarter plan. So what the process is like is you meet with your major advisor that you want to change your major to. You come up with a study plan for the next 3 quarters, and you kind of look at what it's going to entail you to take for the next, year or so. And then there's a form in OASIS that you submit. And the form gets routed to the dean's office. And as long as you're in good academic standing and you can complete the major within our unit restrictions, which you don't really have to worry about unless you're a junior or senior, then we go ahead and approve it. I want to emphasize too that even though some majors take a little bit longer to declare into that major, you can still be part of that group. So for example, viticulture and enology, they have a lot of prerequisites you have to complete before you get into the major. But you can still get onto the major listserv. You can still do the student club. You can still be really involved in that major, but not officially declared in OASIS. So basically, I hope I didn't cause confusion because I know I was all over the place here, but change your major petition is a form that you submit. You meet with your intended major advisor and get an approved academic plan. And you can always come into the dean's office because we're your advisors and we'd be more than happy to walk you through the process. Anything I missed, Hong?
Like Tracy mentioned, there are a handful of majors in our college and maybe potentially other college. So in addition to completing 1 quarter at Davis, being in good standing, depending on what major, that major may have some prerequisite before you can officially change, such as human development, viticulture, measure economics, etc. And yeah, other than that, you kind of mention everything about the process. And yeah, definitely come into our office. If you're still confused about the process, we could definitely help you guide you through the process. And as an exploratory student, you do have to declare your major before you hit 90 units, excluding any AP/IB units. So you do need to declare a major by 90 units, which is typically at the end of your 2nd year. And if you do declare a major and you don't like it, you're more than welcome to change it again. But like Tracy said, but you do have to complete that new major within our unit cap, which is the 225. So I think that's all I have to add.
Thanks, Hong.
Thanks, Tracy and Hong, for that good information. Peter brings up a good question in chat about kind of recommending between doing 2 majors, a major and a minor. And I have a couple of thoughts, but certainly you may have heard some information from Estefania, just kind of about her process. So I'll definitely want to hear a little bit more about her thoughts with this question. But to start, I would encourage you all to really think about your motivations behind a dual major, a major and a minor. And remember, like we talked about before, and like you heard from Lynn and Spencer with the Internship and Career Center, a major doesn't have to equal a career. And so really thinking about the motivation behind why you'd want to do a 2nd major, for example, what is it about it? It could be personal. It could be a personal enrichment thing. It could totally be for your own interests and not necessarily post-graduation related, but really taking the time to kind of look at, are there other avenues for me to gain experience or learn about this subject that isn't specific to an academic pathway? Or are there certain things academically that I really want to learn more about and dive into? Minors are a great way to take a little bit more of a focused area of study without taking on the full scope and the number of units associated with a second major. Minors are typically 5 to 6 classes of coursework, and students can take a minor in a lot of different subject areas. There's way more minors available than there are majors, just because of opportunities. And so we encourage students to certainly explore that. What I will say about kind of the planning is that depending on the types of majors you have, planning and coordinating scheduling can be a little bit tricky, especially if there's a lot of prerequisites involved in both majors. Generally, you're allowed 2 upper division overlapping courses between majors. So you wouldn't be able to double major in very common or related majors, like double majoring in animal biology and animal science. Aside from just the unit cap, there's a lot of overlapping coursework. And so it may not be a possibility. Or as Tracy mentions in chat, food science and nutrition science, a lot of overlapping coursework there. So it may not even be possible just because of the requirements. But Stephania, do you want to share a little bit more about kind of any thoughts that you have about Peter's question of recommendations on deciding between 2 majors and major or minor, since I'm sure you've kind of thought through a few of those types of options?
Yeah, of course. I just wrote down some quick thoughts real quick so I don't forget anything. But yeah, one thing that I didn't think about was like I think there's like a cap of how many units you can possibly take. So they were making sure, they were telling me that. So when they initially told me, I was initially thinking about double major in landscape architecture and design, they said that wouldn't have been possible because I would have gone too much over my units. So I had to think of, that's why I kind of thought about SED. And luckily that major is a lot smaller. So there was a little bit less classes. So I was like, okay, this is actually capable. So the next process would have been to talk to both advisors, and not all at once. I had to go make meetings and then go see them in person. There was a little bit of back and forth, but initially I always just asked them like, what are the requirements and like, you know, what can I expect? And they pretty much gave me a piece of paper of all the class schedules that are depending on each quarter. And I think that's the part that initially is like when you're making your academic schedule on OASIS, and then for order for them to then approve it, you have to make sure that you're taking the right classes specific for that quarter. So you kind of have to maneuver them back and forth. And then sometimes from what I had experienced is that I had to take some classes over the summer. And I think that's also an option too, talking with your advisor, like, hey, I'm thinking about taking a college, you know, maybe in a community college over summer. It's a lot cheaper. So they're very understanding of that, and they can really help you out if you're interested in doing that, if it's already packed. Because I know specifically for design majors, we have a lot of studio classes, a lot of projects. So it's not something that you can just like cram all in one night, you know, like something like a test. So it's very different. So that's something that I realized. So I'm not like stacking so many classes. I've probably taken like 4 classes, you know, each quarter. So I had to consider that as well. And then, you know, knowing that, because usually if it's in the same college and you're double majoring in that, I don't know, it's very different for me because it was College of Ag and College of, I always forget the word. The one from the College of Design, I forgot that college already. What is it?
Letters and Sciences?
Letters and Science, there you go. So, and theirs is at the Death Star. I'm not sure if you guys know where that one is. And that one was hard to find at first, but once you know what that is, it gets easy. But definitely, like, I'd make the appointments like over OASIS, and I go through there and make the appointments with them. But yeah, definitely I had to figure that out. And I think the one part that was kind of tricky was for like certain majors, you have to be in their majors so you can get top pick. So there was times where like I wasn't already a design major, and I got last pick on some classes, and sometimes I didn't get them. So it's really of like, not, you know, that's not about like wasting your time and waiting too long, but really making sure that you're at least making that time to then take classes to explore. Like I took a sculpture class and it wasn't for either major, but it made me more realize of how much hands-on I want my classes to be. So that's why I ended up deciding I want to actually major in design and really stick with that. So that's definitely that I noticed. And then also sometimes some classes overlap. And I think you only get, for me, it was like max 3 or 2 classes that can overlap. So I didn't have to like take multiple classes for one specific major and get the requirements and do the same thing for those. It was like they were able to work for both. And I think there's like a cap for that as well. And yeah, I mean, that's definitely what I thought was very like useful for me. And definitely a lot of researching online of like careers and like talking to advisors and really getting their insight about what they think is the best option based off what your interests are. So
if I could just add one more comment too, Peter. So like I was thinking as well, like we have a lot of students who do, like Joe had mentioned, for enrichment purposes, which was a great point, because we have some students, like I've met with quite a few who actually they have a major in our college, but then they do like theater and dance as a minor because they're just really into like that, you know, and then that minor satisfies a lot of their general education requirements. I feel like if you're kind of like, if you're able to do the double major and you kind of look at your plan and you're like, okay, I say give it a shot, just try it out, see how it feels. And if it feels like too much, it's going to be too much, then, you know, you can always, you know, kind of change your plan. But I think it's always about, like Estefania said, just lots of ongoing conversation with advisors and trying things out and putting yourself out there and asking questions and doing your own research. That's a great question.
Yeah, and you won't know for sure until you actually try and take those classes. Like you can't just assume that like just hearing the name of the major you're not gonna like it. Like I thought about that with like sustainable environmental design, and it was just really interesting and very different compared to all the stuff that we learned in high school. So that's the best advice. Like don't be afraid to take different classes. I did that. Like I took a sculpture class and I took seminar classes, and you know, in that seminar class I realized my skills that I can bring, and those skills are then affiliated with the major that I really would like to do. So
All right, thank you. We are at a time. Yeah, Chantal, you did bring up a good point. You could do multiple minors as well. There are certainly plenty of options out there. So we are kind of running up on the end of our time, so we are going to wrap things up, but we hope that your experience and opportunity to hear from some of our current students can help inform the decision making that you all will be going through as you move forward here at UC Davis. We talked about office hours, we talked about major selection. Just know that our office is here to support you and work with you moving forward. So definitely encourage you to ask questions, be curious, and don't hesitate to reach on out. So I'll turn it over to Hong to wrap us up.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Yeah, so this basically concludes the first portion of your orientation. So once again, I do want to thank you all, the new exploratory students, for joining us this morning, and also to stay basically the whole time with us. I know 2 hours is also is a very long time to be on Zoom. So thank you so much for sticking with us, and hopefully you gain some additional insight in terms of major exploration and hearing the college experiences from our current students. And I want to do also give a big thank you to our student panel. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and providing perspective to our incoming students. I know they're really grateful and appreciative of all the insights and maybe advice from you, and hopefully take it and implement it in their college year. So I just wanted to mention that we do have some time for you later this afternoon from 2 to 4. During this orientation session, me, Tracy, and Joe will be available to answer any last minute question that you may have, or even continue this conversation right now in our later session. We could also do a last minute schedule check or any other questions that you may have. You are also encouraged to also maybe attend other major session from 2 to 4. I believe you all have Canvas with different Zoom link and orientation for other major within College of Ag. So if you are interested in some major in College of Ag, definitely use the 2 to 4 to talk to those major and even hear from other colleges. I'm not quite sure if you have access to the other college. I know my colleagues I mentioned for sure in College of Ag, but I'm not quite sure about the other college. Do you know, Tracy, Joe?
It usually depends on the major. So I would definitely go onto the major's website first and just see what, some of them require that you meet with a peer advisor. So like a student advisor before you meet with a staff advisor, and some staff advisor appointments are restricted to students in the major. So you can always contact an advisor and email them to get more information, but it really just depends on the major and the college specifically.
All right. Yeah, so this basically, yeah, so if you have any, any other questions or or want to do a last minute schedule check, feel free to join using the same Zoom link for the later orientation session from 2 to 4. I do want to let you know that you will get an email from the Dean's office probably somewhere in October for you to kind of like check in with us before winter quarter starts, just to continue the conversation of your major exploration, help you with course planning, and just to get to know you a little bit better. And we could definitely provide you with resources to kind of help you with your major career exploration. So we're really excited, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your orientation today. And me, Tracy, and Joe will be on here until 12 if you have any questions that you may have. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Bye.